Hi, I'm Tony Wiggins with Locked On Jaguars. On today's show, we're going to discuss Urban Meyer, his present and his future, whether or not this team can put things behind them from last week and prepare for their game against Denver. And also, is it early enough to determine whether this was a lost offseason? We'll discuss all of that here on today's episode of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning. Nothing I love better than hearing that music start, saying that you are Locked On Jags, because that's what we are here every single day, your daily podcast, because it's your team every day. And we're free on all platforms. Thank you for joining us today here, whether you're watching via video on YouTube or listening on one of the various places and platforms where you get this content every single day. A lot to discuss, so we won't bury the lead. We'll talk about rumors. Rumors came out that Urban Meyer's contemplating giving up because he just it's not in his heart, according to something on Reddit. I don't know how much to give, how much really credence that we're going to give that stuff, but we'll at least take a look at it because it's all out there, and we'll discuss that. We'll also discuss how this team can prepare for this week's game coming up this Sunday, and then whether or not it's early enough or too early to determine whether or not the offseason from a personnel standpoint and a staff standpoint was a little bit of a waste. I got to let you know about Locked On NFL Sunday, man. Locked On NFL Sunday has returned with host Ross Jackson and Cody Rourke, and they go through every single thing live every Sunday morning from 11, starting at 11 Eastern. No sketches, no celebrity cameos, no fluff, just football every Sunday with hosts Cody Rourke and Ross Jackson. Yours truly might find his way on that show one of these glorious Sundays. We'll see, especially if the Jaguars give us something that we can talk about other than all of this controversy. But let's just get into it. As soon as I actually started hearing rumblings that Urban was unhappy and wasn't on the same page with his coaching staff, and I hinted at that yesterday in segment 3 on Monday's show, that those things were being said, and I was wondering if they had any validity to it. The person I heard it from has been spot on with everything that they've told me over the last 4 years. So I kind of jokingly said, BS. He said, no, I'm telling you. And it caused me, after watching Sunday's game and seeing how unprepared they were and seeing how that happens for a reason. So when teams are unprepared like that, and when teams stumble and bumble and can't line up and get penalties, one or two things happen. They're either terrible, which that still is a question. The coaches are incompetent, or people just aren't together on the same page. It's like I often make references to Michael Jackson's choreography in his videos. I said, you're going to see mistakes if you watch practice, because that's where mistakes are being corrected. But when you see him in the game, it means that somehow they weren't able to ever get it right in practice and transfer it to the game. Or why is it happening? And maybe it's happening because folks are just not on the same page. And I think that's something that we have to pay attention to. And if you're not on the same page, is it because you're blending too much, too many different ways that guys like to coach, or have you not found the rhythm that you need to be cohesive? Or is your message just not being communicated and it's not getting through because you're not a good communicator? At some point, some things are just elementary when it comes to football, and that means, and I mentioned this yesterday, just in case you guys think I'm being redundant, but sometimes there are people who didn't hear it yesterday, so I'll go back over it. Out of a change of possession, you should never have 12 men in the huddle. You know who's supposed to be out there and who isn't. Why are there too many people? The other thing is you should never have 10 people in the huddle and then one guy grabbing his helmet. What was he doing? Like, have you ever seen on a kick or an extra point or a field goal when they start waving the dude in and he grabs his helmet and he was eating a hot dog? You didn't know it was time for you to go out there. This is your job. You've been doing this since you were a kid. What's the problem? So you have to find out when things are disconnected. You got to look down the line, man, and find out where it's disconnected and what's the problem. So when those things started to happen, it started to kind of validate the fact that the information that I was receiving, that folks weren't on the same page in the building. For that to look, for it to look that bad, I then started making some phone calls. And the people that I talk to are plugged in and they go, it's true. I made another call yesterday. It's true. And then I got a text at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and said, watch what happens in LA. By the time I got back home and came in and I checked my phone, I think it was like 4:15. I saw a tweet that was 2 or 3 minutes old that said Clay Helton got fired. A minute later, I got a text saying Bobby Petrino. And I was like, what? Nah. And I actually got that text Saturday too. But the person called himself being funny. And they text me back and said Bobby Petrino. And I'm thinking like, is he going to quit and go take the SC job? He ain't going to do that. No later than maybe 6 o'clock last night, the Reddit college football site tweeted out that basically he might leave. And they quoted and said his heart isn't in it. And when you put something like that in quotes, that means you're attributing it to someone. Or you could be cracking a joke that's not really funny, in my opinion. But then it started to have some legs, and I called back around and people were like, just wait and see. Because sometimes when these things get out, folks get phone calls and people talk them out of stuff, or they look at the optics and they see that it doesn't look like a good look, so they won't do that. Sometimes, it's like a tester. You test it and go like, this would be a nightmare if I did this. So I can't do it because of almost like when you hire a strength and conditioning coach that has problems, and then you have to tell them to kick rocks 24 hours later because you realize it didn't look right. So I'm wondering, how much truth could it be to it? I don't know. I'm kind of in wait and see mode here, just like everyone else. But I would really, really, really look, if your heart ain't in it, your heart ain't in it, and I get it. But this would be, now I'm gonna be honest with you, this would be bad for the fans of Jacksonville, but it wouldn't be bad for me because, ain't nothing the media loves. I don't try to create stuff, but look, I love a good dumpster fire to talk about. It ain't gonna bother me, not one bit, personally. But it would just be a sad day for a lot of people want opportunities to coach, and a lot of people buy into what people say. Those things would be very, very, it would be just awful. It would be awful. So right now, I guess I'm in wait and see mode just like everybody else, or not really just paying attention to it. He's the coach until he ain't. So that's what we're going to focus on. And we're going to focus on that in segment two, too, because there's still a game to play this week. So this is the thing about it. It's like fighting Floyd Mayweather. When you realize he's faster than you, and all of a sudden, now you're trying to think. And as soon as you're trying to think, say, okay, let me think about this, pop, you get punched in the face. You don't have time to think. And he's smiling at you, telling you, nah, don't think. You should have thought about that before you got in here. Well, that's what's going to happen this week when Von Miller and Vic Fangio and that defense that saw the game in Houston last week, they're coming in here this week. And ain't nobody going to feel sorry for you while you dealing with whatever is ailing you. You got to pony back up, because if you don't, it's going to feel like you caught in a tornado. You got to get ready to play. One way you could probably do it, if you're Urban Meyer, is come out and say, look, all these rumors you're hearing is BS. I'm not going anywhere. I'm in here for the long haul. And get back to work. That ain't going to really help you on the field, but it might help you a little bit in terms of focus and people's minds being put back on what it should be on, and that is football stuff. Let's discuss it. We're going to do it here on Locked On Jaguars on a Tuesday. After I tell you guys about Bet Online, where we're back and better than ever, baby. All eyes are on the gridiron. As you can see, this week was so exciting. There was a very exciting game last night between the Raiders and the Ravens. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website to use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit. That is amazing. Just for signing up, don't forget to use the promo code NFL100. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline is your online sports book experts. To get that bonus, it's NFL 100, and your promo code is Locked On. Yes, sir, buddy, here on a Tuesday. Talking about the Jaguars, they're 0-1 after losing 37-21 in Houston, and the game probably wasn't as close as that score would indicate. Lots of ugly from the game. Trevor Lawrence was not one of those things. I was really, really happy to see him fight, and it was almost like he was playing hero ball a little bit, but that's all right. He didn't buckle. And you never know about a player. You can look at his talent, you can look at all of this stuff, but you never really know about a guy and how he's built and what he's made of until you see him under pressure. And he's the real deal. Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. And that's the biggest takeaway from last week. On a positive side is for a long-term perspective, he's the real deal. Now, you don't want to ruin him. You don't want him to have 51 attempts and to be running for his life every single week and have to play hero ball. But he looks like a guy who's built for it, looks like a guy who can take it, looks like a guy who won't buckle under pressure, and looks like a guy who's going to compete. So for that, Jaguar fans, you're happy. But will they be prepared this week as a team? That is an entirely different question. I think there's some things that they sort of missed on during the preseason period. I think they missed on some evaluations. So there's a lot of stuff you can't undo. You can't undo it like during the season. Like somebody told me about linemen, that linemen during the season weren't going to get bigger and stronger because and this is the former player that said, they say during the year, you work on a little bit of technique, but more than anything, when it comes to conditioning, what you're actually working on is maintenance, trying to keep your body healthy. That's the tornado I told you about. Like as soon as you get over this, boom, here comes another one, right? And the thing is you got to get bigger, stronger, and better in the off season. During the year, you're just trying to maintain and stay mentally focused. Now that comes from a former player, so I believe it. So there's a lot of things that the Jaguars may have missed on in the off season and in training camp that you're not going to be able to make up for and get back. So you have to make do with what you have. And part of that is finding out who you are and knowing what you're capable of, finding the best guys to go to battle with. What you can't have last week is you starting a guy like Dewey Wingard and then realizing that he's not good enough. If you have your finger on the pulse of your own team, you have to know who's better and who's not. You can't. It can't be an experimentation type thing. I know I sound like Nino Brown when I say that. But you can't have an experimentation type thing and then find yourself down 14-7 or 17-7 and then go, oops, we put the wrong guy in the game. No, when you're a coach, that's why I said take the subjectivity out of it. You're going to have to learn to live with certain things. If Andre Cisco is inexperienced, you're not going to make him more experienced by standing him on the sideline. If he gives you a better chance just from a physical standpoint, you got to play him. You got to take what comes with it and hope he learns from his mistakes. The veteran guy, he's going to make the mistakes too. Just because he knows it's coming, ain't nothing he can do about it, doesn't make it any better for your team. You're still going to be down. Situational football, clock management, time management. In boxing, they call it being able to win rounds and put rounds in the bag. Body punches, knowing how, ring generalship. Well, football has a little bit of that too. Clock management, knowing when to go into the locker room with the 17-7 deficit, knowing you're getting the ball back instead of trying to force something with a rookie quarterback, and then boom, they end up scoring, and you go in and it's 27-7 after them scoring twice. I think you need to start Hottie. You got to start Jahad White. I said that again yesterday. You have to start. What is his number now? Did he change his number? I thought it was 59. Jahad Ward. You have to start him. And I think at this point you use Kayvon Chaisson as a change of pace or just to rest up the starters. You can't miss a sack twice and then let a guy complete a 59-yard pass. You know, time is out right now for learning whether or not guys can play. You have to know if they're good enough or not. And you lose credibility with other players when you play guys, and this ain't personal, but you lose credibility with players when you play guys that aren't better than the guys that they're in front of. And I think that happened twice. You can keep Taven Bryan on the bench as far as I'm concerned. Why is he active and Adam Gostis isn't? In what world is Taven Bryan better than Adam Gostis? I don't get it, and I don't understand. Trey Herndon will be back this week, and that'll help because at least you'll have somebody back there that actually knows how to play the ball and knows where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing. I'm still wondering, though, that has anybody figured out how to stop a bunch formation yet? We are supposed to have the best of the best, a staff that understands and a staff that gets it, a mix between college and NFL guys that have new ideas that understand old concepts. We don't have that. We were unprepared. This team, the Packers were the worst team I saw because they ran into a buzzsaw, right? And I actually saw that game live. But we know that they're not as bad as they looked. I'm not so sure the Jaguars aren't as bad as they look. But they have a chance to prove it this week. And we'll leave room for them to do that before we just totally realize and ostracize them and say that this thing is a wrap and we're getting ready to start talking draft next year. Was it a wasted offseason? Is it too early or too late to make that determination? It's a question that we have to ask. So we will make sure that we answer that question. We'll ask it and answer it and try to come up with something in the next segment here on Locked On Jaguars on a Tuesday that will actually maybe give you a hint on whether or not what did they miss. I said they missed some things. We're going to talk about what they missed, and we'll do it in just a second here in segment 3. Once I tell you about rockauto.com, I already told you about BetOnline. I'm going to tell you about rockauto.com today. You want to save some money? I'll teach you how to make money in other segments. Now I'm going to teach you how to save money, which in essence is really the same thing as making money. You can do that at rockauto.com. Everyone has vehicle trouble. Make no mistake about it. The key is how do you fix it and who do you go to for your parts and accessories? For me, it's rockauto.com because I trust them. One, you do save 30, 50, and sometimes even 100% more on the same parts that you do for a chain store. 2, I trust them because they're a family-owned business and they've been in business for 2 decades and they have never let me down. In fact, they've made me smile because every single time I go to rockauto.com, I get exactly what I want on time and it exceeds my expectations. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto, right? Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box so that they know we sent you? It's very, very important for you to do that. It's very, very important for you to get what you asked for and to get it on time and to save money. And you can do that on all your car parts and accessories because rockauto.com has all the parts and accessories you need at an amazing selection with reliable low prices. It's rockauto.com. Make sure you put Locked On in that box. Now, everybody that's looking at TV, trying to find ways to watch your games and all of that stuff, let me tell you something. You got 3 or 4 different devices and 4 or 5 different passwords and your neighbor's cousins login information and they didn't pay their bill and now you got to wait and you got to call them to tell them to pay their bill so you can watch their TV, right? You need to stop all that foolishness, man. With Direct TV Stream, you can stop it because you'll get your TV together. It's my favorite thing. Get it together, man. It's called Direct TV Stream, and it brings you live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together. All right. Compatible device required. Content varies by package, but you need to go to directtv.com. That's directtv.com to find out more information and get your TV together. Speaking of getting things together, the Jaguars need to get things together, and they have to do some self-evaluation. And sometimes you have to ask yourself the hard questions like, what did we miss and why are we in this position and how did we get here? I think they made some errors in free agency, and I don't know if those things were made egregiously or it was just some sort of disconnect with the guys that were out there that were available that they may have tried to get. So before I say, well, they went for the wrong people, you have to wonder if they went for these other folks and they just didn't get them. Were they too cheap? Were they trying to be frugal with the cap space? Were they being overly cautious or careful? Or did they misread the situation? I can recall the day after free agency that they said that they misread some stuff, and Urban had said he had to get used to some stuff. And so that hints that things didn't go their way, that they actually went after some people. I did hear about Judon, who plays up, and I heard about the tight end from Tennessee that also, both of those guys ended up going to New England. I did hear something, but it didn't come from the Jaguar side. It came from some other people that were connected to those folks that said, yeah, they thought it was a joke, basically, with how the Jaguars approached that situation. So in any event, I'd rather not spend the money than spend the money and not get any results. And if you look at the box score or just watch the game, no one that they signed in free agency except Marvin Jones Jr. really did anything. I do like Jenkins. I think Jenkins is Rashawn Jenkins is a very good safety. He can really play. So I'll give a little bit of a pass to that. Griffin has to catch that interception early. But we've had great corners here that dropped interceptions in Houston early in the game. Jalen Ramsey did it a few years ago in the infamous blow-up game with Doug Marrone. So one play doesn't stop anything, but I think it might be too early to decide whether it was a wasted offseason because of the free agency. Here's what will determine whether or not they wasted the offseason and spent too much time in training camp trying to adapt and get used to the NFL. If he ends up with a whole nother staff or at least more coordinators, if he makes changes at the top after this first season, it was a waste, especially with a rookie quarterback. Because I have seen rookie quarterbacks in the past. Jason Campbell was one. His first 5 years, he had 5 different offensive coordinators. That can be a disaster when you constantly switch and change who's going to coach the team, because you sell these guys on this. You sell them, and this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. And the second you change, they were like, well, wait a minute. Now you kind of told me that this other thing was what we were supposed to be doing. Football is one of those things. I liken it to my military service. You adapt and overcome in the military because they tell you that things change daily. However, how you approach it does not change. The fact that things change daily is one of those things that's built in that you actually have to get used to. And the discipline that you have to those things changing, even your leadership, you adapt. In football, when you change coaches and philosophies after you have told people over and over again, this is what worked, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, believe in this, believe in this, believe in this. And then all of a sudden you do something different after 1 year. Well, the next time you say, okay, now I want you to believe in this, believe in this, believe in this, maybe they don't do it. Maybe they don't do it. It's important. That's why sometimes it's important, especially as a leader and as a communicator, to know who you are and understand exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So I don't know if we can say it's a wasted off season, but if they don't get more production out of the free agent class, if they draft an entire, it's one thing to if you're a really good team to treat the NFL draft like a baseball farm system where we don't need you now, but we're just going to prepare you for 2 years later when we need you. I get it. You don't do that in the NFL when you're coming off of 1-15. Now, I know that seems like a little bit of a contradiction from some things I said in the offseason where I said you don't necessarily have to go out and get immediate help at every single position if that means passing over better players. Because at the end of the day, the team with the better players for the long haul is going to win. That's not the same thing that I'm saying now. My point was a team that's 1-15 probably needs everything. And you can't take for granted that the guys you have are that good that you shouldn't have just drafted everything. There were people that said they didn't need an edge rusher that are now saying they need an edge rusher. I told you they needed an edge rusher. There were people that said they didn't need an offensive line because the offensive line was okay. They're fine. No, they needed an offensive line. I told you that too. People say, we don't need no wide receivers. We're good. No, they're not good at wide receiver. That's why you had two guys the other day dressed who they just picked up a week ago. They don't need another corner. Yeah, they do. That's why you're glad Trey Herndon is just coming back. They don't need a safety. Like hell they didn't. And they should have got another one to help Cisco and Jenkins. Get 3. I don't care. They don't need a Mike linebacker. They got Schobert. Yeah, and he's gone. And they still might need another one. They don't need defensive linemen. They can stop the run. Really? Did they the other day? That's the point. It could be a wasted offseason because the Jaguars just signed they went out and drafted a bunch of players. And I didn't criticize them for doing it. I was just saying, okay, this is what they did, and this is why they did it. This is how they did it. Let's see how it works out. They drafted guys that they knew from high school. Newsflash to you, everybody who was good in high school ain't going to be good in the NFL. Just because you know them and you like them then doesn't mean they're going to be good in the NFL. What they did in college actually matters. Pay more attention to scouts than coaches. Because if coaches, by their nature, if they're coaching and spending time coaching, they're not evaluating film from guys that's not in the league. I wish y'all could see my face. The people on YouTube can, because it's obvious that they need to trust the scouts more than they trust coaches, and it's obvious they don't. We got to get it together, man, and we got to figure out what's going on here in Jacksonville. It's week 2, and I'm already doing shows like this. They can change it, though. They can change it this week. Will they? If they do, you can make you some money, but you got to listen to the Locked On Bets podcast with your boy Q and Lee Sterling before you go to betonline.ag, who sponsors that show. That show will give it to you raw. Lee Sterling will give you the picks that you're supposed to have, and your boy Q will guide the show and give you the information that you need to. So go find the Locked On Bets podcast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and listen to it before you go to betonline.ag with that information to make you some money. We'll be back at it, man, tomorrow on Wednesday. We'll have a Locked On NFL show also on a Wednesday with James Rapine and myself. And come this Thursday, we'll be doing the crossover show with Cody Rourke of Locked On Broncos. Until then, it's your man Tony Wiggins signing off at Locked On Jaguars. Y'all take care of each other, and we will see you.